I think let's get into some theories because I think there's a lot of theories that people have been kind of talking about three or 4 weeks since the trailer dropped. Peter, since you're the big DC head, what are some of your theories right out of the gate coming out of this trailer? What are something? What are some things that you're looking at as like, oh, they're going for that?
Well, it seems like there's a possibility of Brainiac, which this is my kind of worry. How much can you have? Because I think a lot of the opening is in the trailer with this kaiju or whatnot, or maybe opening of the film to the midpoint. Because from the looks of it, Superman. So there's the country of Barava, which in the comics is in Eastern Europe, but they've clearly moved it to the Middle East, and they're fighting the country of Jonapur, which is another DC country. And I love this idea that people point out of, this is a conflict that, it's got too many variables from the human perspective. So Superman coming in to intervene, the kid waving the kid with the flag,
Yeah,
because one of the newspapers in the trailer, if you blow it out, there's going to be a villain called the Hammer of Barava, and I love this. Clark Kent is writing about the heroics of Superman. Looks like Superman's interference gets this guy to attack Smallville or Metropolis rather, and cause damage and death. So that might explain the angry mob you see in the trailer. And then of course we get the Guy Gardner Green Lantern. That bulk set is perfect. It's everything I've wanted. It's perfect. Thank you, James. And then we have fresh from her experience on the cinematic masterpiece of Madam Web, we have Isabella Merced's Hawkgirl, and then we get Mr. Terrific. Three interesting choices there. It's not really, or sorry, Eddie Gothers, Gotkeys, got the. I apologize, sir. Mr. Terrific. There is a the thing about those three is they have some fairly tragic backstories and are big on trying to write their own fate. So that's a very interesting thing that can go along with Superman's hope. Uh, there's actually a second version of this trailer. If you're actually watching this in the movie theaters, there's a scene where Lex Luthor is walking in with two people by his side, which looks like the Fortress of Solitude, which we see a little later with Kyle Lex, the robot caretaker of the fortress, basically Jor-El's, like kind of assistant.
yeah,
Which again, a scene I love. Even Superman feels a connection to a dying AI robot.
yeah. It's the last connection to
Love this
Krypton,
guy.
basically.
Yeah. The theory there is it's most likely going to be Ultraman, the reverse of Superman, where kryptonite hurts Supes. It powers Ultraman, which is probably why he's punched that far into the Arctic. It has to call his boy Crypto.
Yeah,
I want to say Crypto is such a perfect call, especially if James Gunn's. It seems like he has the idea of this is a homecoming for Superman. No pun intended to Spider-Man No Way Home, because Crypto came out in the late 50s, I think, and was a pretty much a regular part up until the 80s when they won like ground Superman, which how can you ground him? Oh, we saw Man of Steel. A little too much. So I love this idea that James Gunn is like, you know what? Crypto's fun. I love how he described him as a good, bad, good boy. It's basically, he's untrained, but he's still a good boy.
yeah. But he's still the bestest
So,
boy in the DC universe.
exactly. So I think a lot of this is going to rest with Lex, which is the most obvious thing. So I think Lex
Yeah,
is going to pull some strings here. The scene with Superman in the cell having to punch through that glass, and obviously Metamorpho is close to him. Some people point out he could be because Metamorpho's power is he can turn each part of his body to like a an element. So he might be like solar projecting there to give Superman, his strength because he gets his powers from the yellow sun. That's why Kryptonians are so powerful on Earth.
Yeah.
So the Brainiac thing is an interesting turn. The big circle pink thing in the sky at the end and in the initial picture of the Superman suit. I don't know what that is. I was like, what? I was like, okay, Comic Vine, what is the? Is there a giant eye villain I'm just not thinking of? So something's going on there. I have not seen
Yeah.
Creatures Commando yet. It is on my list, but some people are saying Cersei, the a major Wonder Woman villain, that's kind of like her powers are in the show like that. So I don't know what's going on there, but I just know the gut feeling. When in doubt, Lex Luthor is being a POS.
Yeah, that's probably the right thing. It's like, oh, it could be this, it could be that. Like, guys, let's just go with the simple solution. Sometimes that's what it always is. It's like Luthor, he's up to no good. He hates Superman just because he's there. He's in his way, pretty much. But yeah, no, some interesting theories here. There's that theory about uh, the mob, and where he goes into what looks like Stag Industries
Mm-hmm.
right there. I've heard another, actually a couple different theories that surround that. Um, that I don't know if that's going to take place at the start or maybe that's somewhere 20, 30, 40 minutes into the film. But there's a couple of theories, and like thankfully I wrote them down because I would have forgot the specifics. But that Superman in the mob scene where you have Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, and Hawk Girl come in. There's a couple different things. One is you go back to that kid that raises the flag, and say like Superman just goes and helps, and because of that, those other heroes who I believe their suits kind of are like implied like they are working for these corporations right there. So that's an interesting aspect that you add in here, but that they
Mm-hmm.
are the ones taking care of the kaiju while Superman is off taking care of this in a foreign country. And he comes back late. City gets more destruction, and the crowd is upset, and also the heroes are upset. I also think it could be, hey, listen, Superman, he's kind of new onto the scene. There's other heroes that we know that have been on the scene for a while. They were like, hey, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't know his powers, and he caused a little bit more destruction. We're going to try to come and, talk to him or take him in because we do see him in handcuffs at some point where we see Rick Flag Sr., we see Ultraman down the line. But there's a lot of interesting stuff with that kaiju fight. And maybe it's a thing where Superman's trying to protect it because Superman doesn't kill. And it's like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
listen, there's a better solution here than just like killing it. And it causes a little bit more destruction, trying to not kill it. And they're upset with
We,
that.
we
So
see we see those towers like domino into each other, so that could be
yeah,
a,
yeah.
a sore point.
I mean, after the mob, with the mob and that scene, his suit looks a little burned. So I'm assuming it's after that scene and where that kaiju just flamethrowers, with his mouth and tries to burn up Superman. Which it's about time we got to see Superman fight a kaiju. By the way, it's about time. Um, but I'm really curious to see what type of context those scenes are gonna be in regards to the movie. I also want to talk about Ultraman because there's you talk about Ultraman a little bit. Could that be a Lex Luthor thing right there? We kind of talked about with that little scene that was shown in the theaters. Is Ultraman, is he working for Lex Luthor? Is that a Lex Luthor thing to kind of combat Superman, who's been on the scene for a little bit but is still fairly new? Is that a version of Bizarro? Is that a clone of Clark? Who is that? And maybe again, maybe it's just a simple answer, like with that thing we see in the background, and that usually is what it is. But I'm also just really curious. I think that scene with the mob is kind of curious about what's going to happen with that, what's going to lead to him being arrested. And I mean, of course, we know he eventually, he's going to break out. He's Superman. He comes back and,
Right.
the day is saved. But just like, what are some of the context surrounding these events? And obviously, we still don't know. It's the first trailer, but it's still kind of curious and kind of fun to kind of theorize what's surrounding those scenes.
Right. I can see maybe the I guess the tried and true, the public doesn't know how they feel about him. That's such an easy one to go off on. I think it's just how you get him to that fortress where he's getting knocked out, and potentially Supergirl going to show up. Some people blew up the reflection on Calex's head, and it looked like there was a woman in the background that could obviously be Eve Teschmacher, which I'm glad to see. Her back, obviously, introduced in the '78 Donner films, and became a character from there. Or it could be Amelia Aycock's Supergirl, because people said there is kind of like an emblem on the chest. So there's a lot going for here. The Brainiac thing, to me, I kind of don't want, because I feel like that's a strong enough character that can be even a Justice League villain when you get to that point with you
Yeah.
get all the boys and girls off the ground. Yeah, there's good ideas here. What I like is yeah, but this is a true trailer. It just gave us a little hint of it. I think I think the kaiju is going to be early in the film, and that scene with the giant circle thing in the Metropolis sky. I think that's going to be our finale in some capacity. What really excites me is how Lois Lane's find out Clark Kent is Superman. My preference in these stories is she always finds out, he never tells. I always love that.
Yeah.
Especially with how Smallville did it, where she finds out, keeps it a secret until Clark's ready to tell her, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, I knew the whole time." And I got a good feeling because I noticed how he's keeping his hair messy and has the curls, but that scene with the mob, he has that one curl. I think that's going to be Los's tipping point, so I'm going to put some money on there. But I do gotta say they're doing the Daily Planet right. We see Cat Grant there. We see Steve Lombard, the guy who's yelling at Superman. We got Jimmy Olsen, obviously. Perry White, we know is going to be there. So they're going all in on something that they could easily just ignore, but is critical to the Clark Kent persona.
Yeah, it's a critical part of it. Going back to Man of Steel, that part wasn't really involved in that plot too much. So it's nice to really kind of get back to that kind of idea of Superman, the idea of Clark, and just have him be a part of, get to see his daily life, working at the Daily Planet, get to see the people that he's around with, and how he interacts with them and how he goes about being a journalist. I also think that's something else that Lois is probably going to deal with, being a journalist in this day and age, and especially with a guy like Superman coming along, I think is also another fascinating thing that they can go with.
Mm-hmm. There's an interesting thing I saw where maybe they will do a reversal of the parent figure from Earth passing. Because on that same newspaper, there's talks about a tornado outbreak in the plains. Obviously, probably referencing Smallville. And the only thing we see of his parents is him comforting Pa Kent. So some people theorize, oh, are they going to kill Ma Kent off to get that storyline going? And again, I don't know anything David Cornswell's done, but this looks like a younger actor in the scene with Pa Kent. So maybe this is, the classic flashback. But yeah, similar to Uncle Ben, always put your money on Pa Kent. That's the safe bet, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, yeah, that's a safe bet right there. Um, yeah, no, this again exactly it did exactly what a first trailer needed to do, what it had to do,
Mm-hmm.
and got people really hyped up because this is Superman. This is a lot of the hope and optimism that he brings to the table. And again, James Gunn, I think he gets it. As much as there's probably some talk about like, oh, he's the head of this universe and he's doing the biggest superheroes. Like, you know, take your tail, do it yourself kind of thing. But he gets it. We did three successful Guardians films. He had a successful Suicide Squad film. He knows these characters. He knows them inside and out. He loves the comics. He always wants to go back to the source material, and also he knows how to bring in heart into his
Hmm.
films. And he's done it with characters that that were a raccoon in a tree that nobody cared about until the end of the first film. Like, why did the tree die? Why did he have to die? And but now you got the big guy. You got Superman, the most known superhero out of all of them, and he can definitely do something that has a whole lot of heart. And Superman is a character that is about heart, is about hope, and having that optimism and leading with that.
I mean, yeah, even in the trailer, the scene where as he's fighting the Kaiju, he does the dramatic save on the most zero perception girl in all of Metropolis. The one where all the girls got the VR on and he just has to swoop in. But it's the peak Superman save. So many the parallel to the famous scene in Smallville, which just became part of the opening, save me package where Tom Welling Superman saves the child. Yeah, that's what I think we need to remember because a lot of people I've seen a little bit of that of saying like, oh, of course the James Gunn is going to take Superman, but like, yeah, he's got a dark sense of humor and his style is more on the horror or I guess comedy horror. But yeah, he showed with those Guardians films, especially with Rocket's past scenes. He can build hearts, and he did
Yeah,
that with a mechanical rabbit, otter. So imagine him doing that with a human being. So I think we're in a pretty good predicament here.
yeah, I think so. I definitely think we're going to be in for a treat on July 11th. It can't get here sooner, you know, but maybe you can hold off a little bit because, again, as I mentioned, it's a big year for both of us. So maybe just hold on a little bit. Then when it gets closer to July 11th, just like speed up and get here so we can go and see this movie. And now I'm really excited for this one, Peter. It's been a long time coming. It's been a long time since you had a Superman film. It's been at this point, it's been 12. It'll be 12 years by that point, which I can remember seeing Man of Steel. So it's like,
Mhm.
man, that old, huh?
I was going into my senior year when Man of Steel came out. That
Yeah,
feels cursed. Feels like does I was in high school at one point? Are you kidding me?
yeah,
That
yeah.
happened?
And now here we got a Superman film coming out, another one, a new one, and this one feels like it's going to be it's going to really lean in heavily to that '78 film, which everybody loved, and which, fun fact, I did not see until the pandemic. You know,
Hmm.
you know, we were staying in, we were locked in, and I said like, hey, it's a classic. It's the Superman films. Like I got to watch it. I got to see what it's all about. So, um, yeah, no, I'm excited for this one. I know you're really excited for this one, as this really it's not the de facto lead into the DC Studios universe. I know Creature Commandos is, but it's our first film into this universe. There's a lot
Right.
of hype around that, and there's a lot of expectation that goes with that.
And and they've said it. Everything is riding on this one movie. So
Yep.
there's probably not much you can do if it goes wrong, but I think James Gunn has earned the benefit of the doubt. I know everyone's like, well, he made Brightburn. That was a what if Superman was you. Like, yeah, that's a tired trope and it was bad. Okay. Guardians 3 was perfect, so I'm not worried. I'm not worried.